Marty has been a member for 11 months. My calculations are right. His profession, he's an aspiring professional speaker, sales trainer, and motivator. The title of his project tonight is out of the CC manual, project number 10, Inspire Your Audience. The time requirements are 8 to 10 minutes. We have the specifics on that.
Yes, Marty will qualify at 7 minutes and 30 seconds. The green light goes on at 8 minutes, the yellow at 9 minutes, the red at 10 minutes, and he will disqualify at 10 minutes and 30 seconds.
When I asked him about his thoughts on the theme, Marty said he spent 20 years working in offices dealing with politics and emotions and personality. For the last 5 years, he's worked at home dealing with politics, emotion, and personality. He said every once in a while his wife yelled, "Marty, come get this roach!" Welcome, Marty Mercer.
Mrs. Mercer, the only reason that I can see why your husband is alive is the aspirin that he's taking. The cardiac cath exam that we just did revealed 5 blocked cardiac arteries. He really shouldn't be alive. His heart should not be beating. His blood must be so thin that it's just sneaking through those blockages. We have got to do open heart surgery immediately. Which one of these cardiac surgeons would you like for us to call? My fellow Toastmasters and welcome guests, as we approach Father's Day, we all have the opportunity to think about the impact that our fathers and dads have had on our lives. We have the opportunity to think about the mistakes that they made, things they didn't do so well, that we don't want to repeat. But we also have the opportunity to think about the legacy that they'd like to leave or have left for us that we do want to repeat. So when we think about these lessons, we want to focus on the positive, and we want to focus on the negative. And that conversation I shared with you was from the fall of 1993. 60 years of lifestyle and stress had finally taken its toll on my dad. He was born and raised in the South and was raised in that great, good Southern fried cooking. Started smoking cigarettes when he was a teen and he never quit. He put all 5 of us through school, and in fact, at one point in time in the early 1980s, all 5 of us and my mother were full-time college students. He ran a small company for 20 years that went in and out of bankruptcy. He retired early at 55, but within 5 years, those 60 years of choices and stress had taken its toll. And he came through the cardiac surgery great. In fact, he was walking post-op day 1. His problem then was his right leg. You see, they take your saphenous vein, I like to say they rip the saphenous vein out of your leg to make those grafts to put into your heart. And that created a large amount of swelling in his right leg. And he said he had so much pain in his leg that it hurt worse than his chest did with all the staples in it. Fast forward 5 years. He's at my grandparents' house helping them move some luggage. He's got suitcases in each hand, and instead of listening to my mother and doing what she said, which was to take the steps, he insisted upon walking down to my grandmother's wheelchair ramp in the rain on a plywood ramp. Yep, he slipped, he fell, hyperextended his left knee. That's the clinical term, hyperextension. Here's what really happened. He completely destroyed his upper left leg and his knee. These thigh muscles were totally severed from his knee. The video of the surgery, his thigh muscles looked like a big bowl of spaghetti. 12 months of very tedious, very painful rehab followed, and he still walked with a limp. Fast forward 6 more years. The company that I'd worked for several years had been bought by another company. Despite all the turmoil in the acquisition, our sales team had succeeded. We exceeded our quota, and I was fortunate enough to be named the VP of the Year, even though I was a newcomer. Throughout all that turmoil, that made this award even sweeter. So as I walked out of the hotel room after the award ceremony, to get that celebratory call to my wife, just still basking in that glow of success, I looked at my phone and there were 10 voicemails from my home phone. I frantically started calling into the voicemail. And inexplicably confusing messages from my son, who was sobbing and crying, and telling me that my father had shot himself with a shotgun. A shotgun. A shooting. I presumed he was dead. Now, those of you who probably know some older men who you refer to as just a grumpy old man, as if it was a behavior choice that they made. Well, for some it is a choice, but for many it's not. It's clinical depression. Undiagnosed clinical depression drove my father out of the house with his shotgun, and he pulled the trigger. He was lucky. He had one other clinical genetic defect. His arms were too short. They were too short to aim correctly and to pull the trigger. And in order to pull the trigger, the gun was slightly angled, and he only got an indirect shot and not a direct one. He survived. He has no memories of that afternoon, except every morning when he looks in the mirror and sees that facial scar on the left-hand side of his face. 2 more cardiac events came by, more cardiac casts, more stents, more hospitalizations, more medication. But each time, he walked out of St. Joseph's Hospital, those 5 bypass grafts, the limp, the scar, and more medication. So my wife dubbed him the man with 9 lives. Like that old Timex watch commercial, he kept taking a licking, but he just kept ticking. What was it that was driving him? Where was this energy coming from that he could survive 5 blocked cardiac arteries, 2 more cardiac events, destroy his left leg and knee, and stare down the barrel of a double-barreled shotgun just inches from his face and pull the trigger and still survive? How is it that he's alive and thriving while others have perished or just drift aimlessly off into old age? How is it that he's on his 4th or 5th life and others only seem to have one? Now, I could say it's perseverance, that he never gives up. I could say that he has the work ethic of a mule. My mother would say he has the stubbornness of a mule. Maybe it's genetics, maybe it's a great healthcare system, maybe it's lady luck. The answer lies in the story between those events. See, I haven't told you one other fact. Starting in 1992, he began volunteering with his local literacy group called FLAG. He began tutoring people who didn't know how to read. And for those of in this room, it's hard to imagine, but people can get to middle age and not know how to read. But if you couldn't read and you lived in Fannin County, your life was transformed by the weekly tutoring sessions with my dad. He didn't stop there. He became the volunteer treasurer for FLAG, helping them raise money. And so every time as he rebounded between his health events and he was looking to add more lives, he kept returning back to FLAG. He kept offering his time and offering his love with strangers to help them change their lives and improve their economic status. Somehow the energy he was infusing in his students was being returned to him in additional lives. It doesn't stop there. He started teaching GED classes. High school dropouts, young and old, would come to him, take the classes, go take the GED test, and pass. Now the circle of influence was widening. Now their education was improving, their job skills were improving, and their community was improving. All from the man with 5 grafts, a limp, and a facial scar. As their lives were transformed, his life got extended. It happened one more time. Last fall, he and my mother took in a 25-year-old foster son, their 6th child, if you will. A convicted felon out on drug abuse charges who had been sentenced in the drug court and needed a place to live. The problem was he didn't have anywhere to live. So my parents took him in. When David asked my dad, why would you take in a total stranger who was a serial criminal? He said, because you needed somebody, and we're here to help. So as you think about Father's Day and you think about your dads, you think about the impact on your lives, don't focus on their mistakes. Don't focus on the negative. Focus on the positive things, the legacy that they've left for you in their lives. If that doesn't work for you, think about my dad. Perseverance, the never giving up. Yeah, sometimes he was kind of stubborn. But share your life, share your skills, share your time and your love. Not just with people in your family, but with total, complete strangers that you don't even know. Think about that man in Blue Ridge, Georgia. 5 bypass grafts, a limp, facial scar. He's got 5 more lives left. Forgive him. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.